Something subtle is beginning to unfold around you, quiet enough to miss yet strong enough to redirect everything you thought was settled. You may have sensed fragments of it already, brief pauses in energy, moments that didn't quite add up, but the center of it has stayed hidden until now. Someone deeply tied to your life stands at a crossroads they can no longer ignore, carrying decisions they have shared with no one, not even those closest to them. On the surface, they appear steady, even composed, continuing routines that look completely ordinary, but underneath that calm is a conflict that refuses to settle. Their thoughts keep circling back to you, not in loud or dramatic ways, but in quiet flashes of memory that surface when everything else goes silent. What once felt like a passing moment between you has grown into something they can no longer dismiss, shaping choices they are struggling to make about their future. The path ahead of them is being presented as certain and complete, yet their heart resists it, sensing something unfinished that they cannot name out loud. This inner divide has reached a point where staying unchanged is no longer possible, and whatever comes next will redefine more than just their direction. Even if you cannot see the full picture yet, the shift already in motion will continue unfolding in ways that slowly reveal the truth, changing how both of you understand what was real, what was imagined, and what can no longer be avoided as time moves forward from this moment. Right now, they haven't slept properly in weeks because every night, they're haunted by a single thought they never imagined would shake them this violently. What if I'm about to marry the wrong person? On the surface, everything looks clean, well planned, beautifully arranged, the dates fixed, the venue booked, the family excited, the celebrations forming piece by piece. Everyone sees confidence on their face, but behind closed doors, they're trembling. And the reason? You. They're feeling a magnetic pull toward you so intense, it's beginning to scare them. It's the kind of pull that makes people question everything they thought they knew about love, timing, fate, and commitment. They're starting to realize that their heart hasn't moved on the way they claimed it did, and now the truth is rising, like a tide they can no longer hold back. They're staring at their reflection at 3 a.m., asking themselves why, out of all the people in the world, your memory is the only one powerful enough to shatter their certainty. What they're deciding isn't just emotional, it's life-altering, soul-bending, and it's happening faster than anyone around them realizes. Yet here is the twist, the part you weren't prepared for, the part that will change the way you breathe for the next few seconds. Your person is only days away from finalizing something huge, something irreversible, something that will impact not just their life but yours. And the shocking truth is this: they are about to stand in front of their family and announce their decision. But the decision is not what everyone expects. People think they're sealing their future next month, tying the knot, stepping into a new life. But deep inside, they're preparing for the most unexpected confession they've ever made. They are planning to reveal a truth that will stun everyone, a truth that has been clawing at their chest since the moment they felt your absence. Because despite the pressure, despite the expectations, despite the perfectly decorated path laid out for them, their heart has already made a different choice. And this choice is the reason their hands shake when they imagine the day approaching. They are realizing that they cannot walk into a marriage built on silence, pretending they don't feel what they feel, pretending their heart isn't somewhere else, somewhere dangerously close to you. They're about to make the toughest decision of their life, and no one, not their family, not their friends, not the person they're supposed to marry, knows the truth yet. But you're about to hear it first. My beloved child, the moment you stepped into their story, everything inside them shifted in ways they still cannot explain. Tonight, as they sit alone with the weight of next month pressing on their chest like a stone, they're realizing something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. What they feel for you didn't fade, it deepened in silence. The world thinks they're moving forward confidently, but inside, they're trapped between what looks right and what feels right. Their family keeps telling them that this marriage will bring stability, respect, a picture-perfect future, yet every time they close their eyes, the only face they see is yours. They're questioning everything they've been taught about timing, destiny, and loyalty, and the most painful part is that they can't talk to anyone about it, because the truth they're hiding is not small, it's explosive. It's the kind of truth that could stop a wedding, break expectations, and pull two souls back into a connection the universe isn't done writing yet. Listen carefully now, because this next part is where the emotional earthquake truly begins. Their life over the past few weeks has become a silent battlefield. Smiles on the outside, storms on the inside. People think they're excited about their upcoming commitment, especially since the plans are almost finalized. But if anyone looked closely, they'd see the tremble in their voice when your name comes up. What's haunting them most is a memory they can't shake. The way you made them feel seen, understood, alive in a way they never felt with anyone else. It's that one moment you didn't even think twice about, but for them, it became the heartbeat of everything. And now, as the wedding date moves closer, that memory is growing louder, pushing against their chest like a truth desperate to be spoken. They're scared because the life they're supposed to walk into doesn't fit the shape of their heart anymore. They know that marrying someone when their soul is still tied to you would be unfair to everyone, including themselves. Sometimes stepping away from a chosen path feels like watching everything carefully built begin to collapse inside the mind, yet the pull of an inner voice only grows louder with time, until hesitation turns into clarity that something cannot continue as it is. Recently, the struggle reached a breaking point when, late at night, they found themselves on the edge of finally speaking the truth. Standing alone in their room, phone in hand, your name lit up the screen while their thumb hovered uncertainly above the call button. Caught between courage and fear, their thoughts rushed in every direction, wanting to confess lingering emotions, unresolved questions, and the unsettling feeling that nothing feels complete without closure. But fear of consequences, of changing everything and disappointing expectations, held them back in that fragile moment. Still, something shifted. Today they made a quiet decision to face what they have been avoiding, setting a personal deadline to confront their emotions before another month passes. They understand now that moving forward without honesty would only deepen the divide between appearance and reality. Even while going through the motions of daily life, smiling and participating as if everything is settled, an internal storm continues to build. What lies ahead is uncertain, but the choice forming within them is no longer shaped by pressure or assumption, but by an undeniable need to finally acknowledge what their heart has refused to silence. In the days ahead, everything they have avoided will come to the surface, reshaping decisions they once thought were already made and cannot be ignored. But deep inside, a storm was ripping through every layer of their calm. The pressure of expectations is suffocating them, and the more their family celebrates this upcoming marriage, the more their soul feels like it's slipping out of their own hands. What's hitting them the hardest right now is the realization that every smile they force, every word they agree to, every decision they pretend to be sure of, is a betrayal of the truth they've buried for too long. And that truth has your name woven into its center. They are discovering, painfully, that moving forward without you doesn't feel like a fresh chapter. It feels like stepping into a story that was never meant for them. Your presence, silent but unforgettable, has become the compass they can't stop turning back toward, no matter how many times they try to look straight ahead. Tonight, they finally stopped running and allowed themselves to feel everything they've been suppressing. They sat in their room with the lights off, letting the weight of their choices press down on them like a confession waiting to escape. In that darkness, they replayed the journey that led them here. The way you entered their life, at the exact moment they didn't realize they needed someone. The connection that formed without effort. The conversations that softened the edges of their heart. And the unspoken emotions that lingered, even when both of you pretended they didn't. They remembered the day they walked away, thinking distance would erase their attachment, but instead, it carved it deeper. It made them realize that what they felt for you wasn't some passing emotion. It was the kind of connection that leaves permanent fingerprints on the soul. And now, as the countdown to their so-called new life moves closer, the silence they've been surviving inside is turning unbearable. They know that marrying while their heart still trembles with thoughts of you would be like sealing themselves inside a cage built from their own denial. The problem is, everyone around them expects perfection. No one expects hesitation. And absolutely no one expects them to confess that the person who owns their heart is someone they aren't marrying next month. But here is where the story tilts sharply, because tonight they made a decision, one so dangerous, so emotionally charged, and so unexpected that even they are shaking from it. They have decided to confront their truth before the wedding day locks them into a life they don't recognize. They're preparing to speak with the person they're supposed to marry, not to reassure them, but to reveal what they've been hiding. Not the whole story, no, that would shatter too many hearts at once, but enough truth to change the direction of everything. They're ready to admit that something feels wrong, that they're not emotionally prepared, that their heart is unsettled, and that forcing this marriage would be unfair. What they won't say aloud, but what is burning fiercely inside them, is that the emotional imbalance, the hesitation, the fear, all of it, comes from the shadow of the feelings they still carry for you. Their hands shook when they rehearsed what they would say. Their voice cracked when they imagined the confrontation. And yet, they know they must do it, because living a lifetime in a commitment built on an emotional lie would destroy them from the inside out. This isn't just hesitation. This isn't cold feet. This is their soul refusing to step into a future that doesn't align with the truth of their heart. And that truth, whether they admit it openly or silently, whether they act on it now or later, is anchored to one undeniable reality. Somewhere deep inside, they feel an emotional gravity they can no longer ignore, as if an unseen thread keeps pulling them back to a connection they thought they had outgrown. The coming month looms over them like a turning point they are not ready for, not because it is distant, but because it feels too final, too defining. Each morning begins with a tightness in their chest, a quiet resistance to the reality everyone else seems to accept without question. Conversations around them are filled with celebration and planning, yet every mention of the approaching ceremony feels like a crack forming in something they are trying desperately to hold together. They struggle to stay present when others speak of futures and promises, because internally they are wrestling with doubts they can no longer silence. The idea of stepping into commitments that do not align with what their heart quietly remembers leaves them restless and unsettled. Beneath all the confusion lies a truth they avoid naming, that a part of them is still tethered to a past they never fully resolved. Then, without warning, a simple message arrives from someone distant offering congratulations and painting a picture of a life that is expected to unfold smoothly and happily. But instead of comfort, it brings a wave of unease. Their hands still, their breathing falters, and for a moment everything feels suspended between expectation and reality. In that pause, they realize certainty is no longer something they can pretend to feel no matter how loudly others celebrate it. Because for the first time, they asked themselves a question they've been too afraid to face. If this marriage is supposed to feel right, why does every part of me feel like I'm walking away from the person who actually matters? The guilt hit them like a wave, not guilt towards the person they're supposed to marry, but guilt towards themselves for denying what their heart keeps whispering. They realize that they can't keep pretending. They can't keep lying to themselves. They can't keep acting like their soul isn't already tied to a memory, a feeling, a connection that leads straight to you. And that realization has now pushed them into a decision they never thought they'd be brave enough to consider. They're starting to understand that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that seem save us from living a life that was never meant for us in the first place. Tonight, as the world around them prepares for celebration, they are preparing for confrontation, one that could change everything. They've rehearsed what they'll say 1,000 times in their head, pacing back and forth, struggling to find words that won't shatter the people around them. But the truth is, Nothing they say will make this easy. They're planning to halt the momentum of the wedding, to pause the process, to tell their family that something inside them isn't ready. They won't blame anyone. They won't reveal the real reason. They won't mention you, because doing that would ignite a storm too powerful to control. But the moment they speak up, the direction of everything will shift. There will be questions, confusion, disbelief. Yet for the first time in months, they will feel a little closer to themselves, a little closer to the truth, a little closer to the heartbeat they've been trying so hard to silence. And while they might not admit it out loud, deep inside they know exactly what pushed them to this turning point. A connection they never moved on from, a bond they never let go of, a story that still breathes through them with your name carved into its center. My beloved child, the night around them is quiet, but their mind is roaring with 1,000 truths they've kept locked away for far too long. They're pacing their room right now, hands shaking, heart pounding, because tomorrow they've decided to take the step that will shock everyone connected to this wedding. For years they've been the kind of person who follows the safe path, who listens to expectations, who keeps the peace even at the cost of their own happiness. But tonight, for the first time, they're choosing themselves, or at least trying to. And the moment they made that choice, a strange calm washed over them, as if their soul finally recognized the direction it always wanted to walk toward. The marriage everyone thinks is set in stone. It's standing on a foundation that is cracking faster than anyone realizes. They can feel it. They can't pretend anymore. And as much as they're scared of disappointing the world, what terrifies them more is living a life where their heart stays chained to silence while their truth is left abandoned. Earlier today, they unexpectedly paused over an old photograph they hadn't touched in months, something simple and unposed, yet strangely powerful in the way it carried emotion without trying. There was no grand story written into the image, no dramatic declarations or perfect smiles, but what it held was something quieter and deeper, a sense of ease they had almost forgotten existed. Looking at it stirred a familiar warmth, the kind that settles gently in the chest when someone makes life feel lighter just by being near. It wasn't about romance in the obvious sense, but about belonging, that rare feeling of being understood without having to explain a single thing. As they kept staring, the stillness around them seemed to dissolve, replaced by a slow rush of memories that refused to stay buried. Moments of shared laughter, unspoken understanding, and small conversations that once felt ordinary now returned with unexpected weight, as if they had been quietly shaping them all along. And with that return came a growing discomfort toward the future they were expected to walk into, a path that suddenly felt misaligned with everything they now remembered about themselves. The idea of promises spoken without truth began to feel heavier than silence, and what once seemed like a clear next step now felt like something built on uncertainty. Inside, there was no anger, only clarity forming in quiet resistance, the realization that moving forward without honesty would mean leaving behind something essential within themselves. A thought surfaced with striking simplicity. A life cannot feel right if the heart feels absent from it. And as the evening deepened, so did the understanding that tomorrow would bring a conversation they could no longer avoid, one that would quietly shift everything they thought was already decided, not to reassure them, not to pretend, not to keep the peace, but to tell them the truth no one saw coming. They'll say they need time, space, clarity, that something inside them doesn't feel aligned. They'll say they can't force a commitment of this magnitude while their emotions are tangled, fractured, conflicted. They will speak softly, but with a strength they never had before. This single conversation will send ripples through their family, through the wedding plans, through the carefully curated image everyone built around them. But deep inside, they know they're doing the right thing. They're choosing honesty over expectation, truth over fear, and authenticity over performance. And even though they won't say your name in that conversation, every heartbeat screaming inside them will know exactly why they're taking this step. They're finally breaking free from a future that was never truly theirs, and walking closer to the unfinished story their soul still feels tethered to. My beloved child, dawn has begun to rise around them, but instead of bringing clarity, it's exposing every fear, every hope, every hidden truth they've been avoiding for months. They woke up before the sun, unable to rest, unable to breathe properly under the weight of what today demands from them. This isn't just another morning. This is the turning point of their entire life. As they sat at the edge of their bed, staring at the floor, they felt something they haven't felt in a long time, the trembling honesty of their own heart. They know that by the end of today, nothing will remain the same. Families will question, plans will collapse, expectations will crumble. But what they also know, deep in the place where truth lives quietly, is that they can't keep pretending their heart is ready for a marriage that doesn't align with their soul's compass. Every step they've taken toward next month has felt heavier, darker, more disconnected. And now, as the reality tightens around their chest, they've understood one thing with absolute certainty: forcing a future without emotional truth is far more painful than facing the world's disappointment. As the morning light spills into their room, they're replaying the memories that never stopped haunting them. Not DRA, memories. Not over-the-top moments, but the small, intimate human pieces of connection. Your voice when you were half asleep, the way your presence softened their edges, the comfort they felt simply existing beside you without needing to impress or pretend. These memories don't come like nostalgia, they come like anchors, like reminders of a life where their soul felt understood, recognized, and safe. And the more they try to convince themselves that the upcoming marriage is the right step, the more these memories rise up like waves, pulling them back to a truth they thought they buried. They can't shake the feeling that they're walking away from something real, something rare, something they didn't appreciate enough when it was right in front of them. And that realization is cutting through them with a sharp honesty they can no longer numb. Today isn't just about breaking a commitment. It's about breaking the silence inside themselves that's been suffocating them for months. And now, as they prepare to walk into the conversation that will change everything, their hands are trembling, but their resolve is stronger than it's ever been. They're not going into this moment with anger or drama. They're going in with truth, with honesty. Somewhere between certainty and hesitation, they stand on the edge of a decision they can no longer postpone, carrying a calm but heavy resolve that has taken months, maybe years, to form. The words they have prepared sit quietly behind their teeth, arranged and rearranged in countless private rehearsals. Yet none of those rehearsals ever managed to make the moment feel easier. What's about to happen isn't dramatic in appearance, but it carries the weight of everything they have been avoiding saying out loud. They know they cannot step into a lifelong promise next month while something inside them still feels incomplete, still searching, still anchored elsewhere. It isn't about confusion anymore. It's about honesty finally refusing to stay buried. There is a presence in their life that they never fully managed to erase, no matter how much distance, silence, or time they tried to create. And that lingering connection has slowly reshaped the way they see every promise ahead. When they finally speak today, they will choose their words carefully, avoiding any direct mention of what truly sits beneath the surface. Yet every pause, every controlled breath, every brief silence will reveal more than language ever could. They won't need to explain the name that never leaves their thoughts for the truth to exist in the room with them. And when the conversation ends and they step away from it, something unexpected begins to rise within them. Not regret, but a quiet clarity, a lightness they haven't felt in a long time. As if a door they didn't realize was closed has finally been opened, allowing them to believe that what comes next might finally belong to them and not to the weight of what they were holding on to.